care in our communities and state. Learn more at nebraskachildcaretaxcredit.org. Brought to you by First 5 Nebraska and Nebraska Children and Families Foundation and aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
KOZ and Bellevue, Omaha, Council Bluffs. This is 1620, The Zone. It's time to break down what went right and what went wrong during this week's game. Severe Reaction is on the air with your host, Michael Severe, and the most important voice of all, yours. Severe Reaction starts now. Powered by...
Will Howard gets the snap. Looking, backpedaling, throwing deep downfield toward the end zone. Has a man out there. The pass is caught. Touchdown, Carnell Tate. Howard floated it right to the goal line. Tate leaped up, made the grab, and Ohio State with a monster drive that started back at their own 9-yard line for the first points of this game inside the last 30 seconds of the quarter. Trips go right, one to the near side. Back throw is Dillon, fires toward the end zone. The pass sails incomplete. Flag comes out. Nair, the intended receiver at the goal line. Ohio State's going to get hit with a pass interference with 9 seconds left. It's on Burke. Are they going to say offensive pass interference?
That's incredible. That's incredible.
Pass interference. Offense number 18. 15-yard penalty from the previous spot. They're down.
Oh, man. If you ask me what I'm laughing at, it is nonsense.
I mean, the game couldn't have started any worse. I mean, it's like, holy smokes. And the defense took the field like last year and said, let's go get a stop. They got to stop. What I thought it was before the game, and I thought it was at halftime. Really at halftime, I told them. Because last week I said some different things to them at halftime. And this week at halftime, I said, this is what it's supposed to look like. If I start worrying about the results only, and you had a coach, you had Coach Osborne, who all he talked about was the process and not the results. I mean, everybody knows what it's supposed to look like. Coach Osborne taught us. He showed us. Like, worry about the process. And so, to me, the way it felt at halftime was the process. Like, they were excited to get back out there and play.
Happy Sunday morning. Welcome to Severe Reaction here on 1620 The Zone. I am Michael Severe. Peter, the producer, on the board today. Joey is off, I believe, for the next 2 weeks. Joey is gone.
Indeed.
Welcome to the show. Hey, man, I understand. I said this last week. The process gets you hired. The process will get you an extension. The process without results will get you fired. I understand the process. I get it. I love hearing coaches and people talk about going through the process. I do. I believe in the process. I go through a process every week of Nebraska's football season. The same thing. Watch this many games. Look at these particular stats. Do this. Get this right. I get it. I get it. But without results, the process will get you fired. I understand. I just hate, after all the years of Bo Pelini talking about the process and everybody else talking about the process, I'm like, next week, for the first time in 8 seasons, Nebraska can have another opportunity to get bowl eligible. They've had this opportunity now for 2 weeks, going into a 3rd week next week. The process will get you fired. With that said, you're going to hear a lot of this, I'm sure, and you probably have already, about the moral victory stuff. There is no moral victory. It's all about one thing. It's about winning games. I get that. I understand. But if an entire nation sees you get destroyed, I mean destroyed, by Indiana last week, and then you turn around and you face a team that's a 25-point favorite over you, that you haven't beaten, you've beaten once since you joined the Big Ten, and you play them like this, and all the highlight shows can only either talk about how Ohio State didn't live up to what they thought they could do or how much better you played. If that's the case, you can call it whatever you want. I call it a successful trip to Columbus that's missing only one thing, a win. That's all. You can call it, you can say moral victory, you can say whatever you want. I call it a successful trip because the trip could have been so bad. And how many of you anticipated a poor trip to Columbus? A lot of people. I read stuff on Twitter. I saw a number of different surveys of what you think this is going to happen. What do you think this is going to happen? A lot of the comments that came in the Big Red Wrap-Up on Tuesday night, were about how do you avoid get blown out. That was the conversation. And in the end, yes, you're not bowl eligible yet. Yes, it's a loss, 21-17. Get that. But if you go into the game, before the game, you walk in to the locker room and you pull Matt Rule alongside, hey, you're going to be leading 17-14 under 6 minutes. Would you take it? And I'm pretty sure he would take it with all the stuff that Nebraska fought against. And we'll get to a lot of that this morning. There's a lot to get to. I mean, there's all the good things that happen, and there's bad things that happen. There's the officiating. There's so much to get to. There's John Hall making 3 field goals, which is incredible, thinking about when Nebraska was special teams-wise coming to this game. But if you tell him that and you say, hey, you're going to have an opportunity to be able to win this game in Columbus versus this Ohio State team, he'd take it in a second. Because the weirdest thing about this series has been, and I think the average score is like 46-20, something like that, in the 9 times they've met since Nebraska came into the Big Ten. They met a couple times before, like in the 50s, but since they've been in the Big Ten, it's something like 46-20. The funny thing about it is that whenever they play Ohio State, and they played well a couple times. I mean, the last time they played them, they played pretty well, and obviously the time that they faced them under Scott Frost, where they had a lead late, they sacked the quarterback a bunch of times. Even in those times, there's always the belief, that there's just so much more talent on Ohio State's team. And this year, more than anything else, because of the huge payroll they have with the NIL and the collective, and you talk about all these great players on their team. They have one of the best freshman wide receivers. They have 2 great running backs. Will Howard got a bunch of money to go there from Kansas State. We talk about all of that. Defensive linemen that are going to go in the first round. Offensive linemen that are going to go in the first round. A linebacker who's probably going to go in the first round. With all that said, in the end, did they look that much more talented in Nebraska? Did they? I mean, honestly, on the hoof. That's what we used to always say, right? Guys getting off the bus or walking across the stage of the Senior Bowl. Yeah, you may look like Tarzan, but many times yesterday, Nebraska made them play like Jane. I mean, you look at some of those plays. Nebraska lost the game, lost the battle. They didn't necessarily lose the fight. If you talk about the fight, how many times were they in tight sets where Ohio State said, we're going to run at Nebraska. We've got a running back we brought from Ole Miss. We paid a ton of money to come here. Trevin Henderson's one of the best running backs to ever be recruited into Ohio State based off of his preseason ranking or when he came into college. When they lined up, how many times did Nebraska, phone's ringing, how many times did Nebraska stuff them? I can tell you, 10 times Nebraska's defensive line stuffed Ohio State. Ohio State, I know they're missing their left tackle who they've had for a long time. I get that. But Ohio State, with all that perceived talent and ability, lined up 10 times against Nebraska, and they stuffed them. A stuff play is either 0 or negative yards on a run play. Stuffed them. So who was more talented? Obviously, recruiting rankings tell you it's Ohio State. The draft picks are going to tell you it's Ohio State. All of that's going to tell you Ohio State. But when you watched it on TV, did you come away saying, oh my God, the talent they have is it's so much more overwhelming than what we faced against Indiana or what you faced against Illinois or whoever else? It wasn't. That's the great example of if you play without making a bunch of mistakes, if you play with a good system, if you play with your pants on fire, you narrow that gap. And it doesn't take very long to do it. You heard it in that soundbite from Matt Rule. They couldn't have started any worse, right? Couldn't have started any worse. Ives fumbles the kickoff. They get the ball at the 9-yard line. First play's a fumble. I mean, you can't start any worse than that. And somehow they battle through that. They get a 3rd down stop on short, one of those stuff plays. And then from there, they essentially played Ohio State even. I'll go through a whole bunch of numbers and a bunch of comparisons and stuff, but it came down to one thing. The one thing that Nebraska hasn't done successfully for almost not quite 15 years. But the one thing that consistently they've not done successfully for a number of coaches and years is finishing drives. You have to finish drives, preferably with touchdowns. Field goals are okay. You can't have empty drives. And Nebraska had a very empty drive after the interception. 1st and goal from the 7, 4 runs, no touchdown, no points. That's what cost you games. Of course, we'll take your phone calls, 402-951-1620. We start off with Jim. Good morning, Jim. How are you?
Good morning, Michael. I'm fine. I'd be a lot better if we had an offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
I think yesterday we saw the definition of insanity. The definition of insanity is repeating something that you know has not worked previously. And how many times did we see him throw a dink and dunk pass when he has a guy with a rocket arm who can obviously throw the ball down the field? At least the Daily Nebraskan said that he committed offensive malpractice yesterday. Anyway, I love your show. I'm going to shut up and listen to you. Goodbye now.
Jim, I appreciate it. I can tell you that yesterday, Dylan Raiola, who attempted 33 passes and completed 21 of them, 6 of the completions went for negative yards. 6 of them. Emmett Johnson was targeted 4 times, had 4 catches for a total of 0 yards. That is hard to do on purpose, and they managed to do it. I don't understand, and this is not just about Nebraska. I have for many years, and you can blame many offensive coordinators over the years across the country at different levels. The horizontal passing game, I hate it. I've always hated it. It drives me nuts. Every time someone goes, well, it's like a run. No, it isn't. No, it's not. The physicality of a run wears down teams. That's why you run early and you run late and you beat people with the running game. That's what does it. I understand this is a passing game now, but to tell me that a screen or a smoke or whatever else is the same as a run, it's not in any way the same as a run. It may account for the same amount of yards gained or lost, but it's not a run. And to continually do that over and over again, 6 plays, negative yards. Dylan Raiola had the same amount of completions for double-digit yards as he had for minus yards. You can call it offensive coordinator malfeasance or malpractice or whatever you want, but that wasn't working. And they went the last drive of the game. You get a huge break on a play that was apparently a fumble. I still don't believe that was a catch. It's supposed to be 2 feet down and then a football move. The second foot comes down and he's hit. So anyway, you call it a catch. It would have been a fumble. They call targeting, which I believe was the correct call because of the elbow to the head or neck area. You get that break. You got Ryan Day going nuts on the sideline. And your next 3 plays are a false start, 2 negative plays trying to get the ball to Emmett Johnson for, I guess, screens, and then an interception. That's what it is. That's how you die. You die with those plays. If I'm going to die, I want to die jumping from a plane. I want to die throwing the ball down the field. I want to die with an effort that is commensurate with the quarterback I have. That's what I want to die with. But no, that's not what happened. They died with dump-off passes to the running back that accounted for -3 and -1 yards. It drives me nuts. Let's go back to the phones. 402-951-1620. That's where Don is this morning. Good morning, Don.
What's up, bro? Hey, I want to.
Hey, Don, what's up? What's up?
What's up, L? How you do?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
Hey, man, a couple things I wanted to ask you about, bro. First off, this one to me was just as bad as Texas back in the day that y'all like to talk about, right?
The 2009 game?
I want to say, huh?
The 2009 game?
Yes.
Ooh, that was painful, bro.
I think this one is worse, bro.
Okay, all right.
I think it's worse. We on the road.
Yep.
But I want to ask you about a couple things, right? First off, I thought the black shirts played good, right?
They did.
You know, the rest was bad. I was looking for them to take a couple more shots down the field.
Mm-hmm.
I thought there was a couple times that they left a couple field goals on the field. And, you know, it get to be the woulda, coulda, shoulda game. Now, I also think, bro, that we let them off the hook, right?
Oh, yeah.
So 2 things I want to ask you about. First off, the play action pass,
Mm-hmm.
because it seemed like they was able to execute the play action pass for like a 60-yard bomb to the guy, and we outran them. We supposed to be able to take advantage of the play action pass. Now, last thing I want to ask you about was, do you think for the last possession that they could have brought in the other freshman quarterback?
For Nebraska? Danny Keyline?
Yeah.
Why?
I kind of thought, bro, because
you thought he was hurt?
Dylan got hurt, bro.
Yeah, but he went.
Yeah,
supposedly
I mean,
he went in. Supposedly he said he was fine.
After that, go ahead, man.
I'm just saying he. I know he's grabbing his shoulder, but he said supposedly he just had like a little stinger, and once he went into the tent, he felt fine. That's what he said. That's what Dylan said.
That's what he said, bro.
Yeah,
but we got to protect these players from themselves, bro.
Yeah, sometimes.
That's part of the whole reason is that you allow these players to go out there injured.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then they might not never get to be the same, bro. You know, you got to keep them fresh, bro. You know, you got to save them from themselves sometimes, I think.
I understand.
But I hang up and I listen. Appreciate you, bro.
All right, man. Good talk to you. Look, let me tell you something. The last thing I would ever advocate is Danny Keyline taking his first 2 snaps at Ohio State, down 4, having to get points. No, Dylan had to be in there. I mean, if his shoulder was bad enough, it would have been Heinrich Harburg. As Coach said, Heine was there on the sideline getting ready just in case. And he didn't need to come in and because Dylan was fine. But, yeah, there were several times in that game where I thought to myself, right now, the offensive coordinator is trolling us. He is trolling us for everything people said last week. Let's take a couple more calls before we take our first break. Let's go to Scott. Good morning, Scott.
Good morning, Michael. How you doing?
I'm pretty good, man. It's a good Sunday.
Well, good. Hey, I always love your breakdowns. I'm sure you're going to go through plenty of numbers today, one of which I'm sure that you'll talk about is the third down conversion for OSU, 1 for 10.
Yeah.
I mean, I would bet, Michael, if you went back, I'm not sure you'll find that in an Ohio State game, even in huge matchups, right? But anyway, that's a great number. Just one thing I would offer you from the referee standpoint, I know we don't need to harp on that. I wish they would consider, as each team gets a challenge once a half, I think they should offer penalty calls as one of the challenges. Now, some people might say, well, those are so subjective. But you know what? Fumble recoveries are subjective. The ball crossing the goal line sometimes is subjective. A pass on a sideline is sometimes subjective. I think they should at least consider that. And the last thing I'll say, Michael, is a couple weeks ago I called in and talked about Dylan's escapability.
Yeah.
He said something in the presser yesterday that was really interesting. His words, and these are pretty close to quoted, he said, that's always been there,
right?
But it was a bigger focus this last week. And then he repeated, that's always been there.
Yep.
Now, I know you want to protect your guy and take care of him, but I'm telling you, we get into a lot of second and longs and third longs because I think he's been told, we don't ever want you taken off. Now, I want to protect him. We all do. But with the slide rule, there's a lot of opportunity there. And I just think it was interesting that he's basically admitting, I've been told to just, put that in the holster for now. So I wanted to get your thoughts on that. Thank you, man, and have a great weekend.
You too, Scott. I appreciate it. No, many times we've watched where I know, from the press box or whatever else, folks have been saying, you got to run there. You got to at least take the 5 yards, take what they're giving you. And he did that great yesterday. Even in high school, he always had enough mobility. I like to call it functional mobility. Functional mobility means if it's 3rd down and 6 and it's there in front of you, you can get 6, right? Heck, he had a 34-yard run yesterday. And I know people like to compare him to Mahomes and everything. When you watch Mahomes run, he doesn't look overly athletic, but he gets a bunch of yards. You don't have to be Lamar Jackson to hurt a defense. Let's go back to that 1 for 10 on 3rd down. The craziest part about that stat is they averaged 10.3 yards a play on 1st down. They only had 5.9 yards to go on third down. That is a great number to have. That's an early down success rate. And still, Nebraska held them for 1 to 10. They 1 of 10 with them going 10.3 yards on first down average. That's incredible. Those two numbers don't go together at all. But somehow, Nebraska made it work. Random Mike, KG, stay right there. We're going to take a break, take our first break. Of course, always, Severe Reaction is brought to you by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally, and Nebraska Medicine, where they will take care of you, your kids. From the beginning to the end, Nebraska Medicine is there for you. We as a family love them, spend a lot of time over there over the years, so we appreciate them as well. We'll be right back here on Severe Reaction on 1620 Zone.
All right, here's John Holt, 1 of 5 on the year. This is going to be a 39-yard attempt into the breeze here at Ohio Stadium. Snap down, kick sailing towards the uprights, and the kick is good. John Holt, second field goal of the year. That's an all-state field goal. Hey, Nebraska fans, Ibuka is one of them, along with the terrific freshman Jeremiah Smith. Now they're tight to the formation. Under center goes Howard. Stretch play action out of this. Step down the field looking for a man. And Smith, he makes a catch. 20, 10, 5, touchdown. Jeremiah Smith burns the Huskers down the seam. And Ohio State answers right back with 6 points. And now Smith with touchdown catches in all 7 Buckeye games over there. So here's John Holt, made one earlier from 39, 54-yard attempt, high snap. It's down. The kick sailing towards the uprights. And the kick is good. John Holt. with a 54-yard field goal to the final play of the half.
Sometimes you just got to speak it into existence, Sharpie. And if I'm Nebraska, get out of your fields and go play football. You can pull this off.
Good from 39 and 54 from 47. Good. John Hall, 1 for 5 coming into this game.
In the words of Gus Johnson, ha ha! That's an actual word for Gus Johnson. Much like James Brown over the years, Gus very creative with the English language. What an amazing day for John Hall. There was no team in the country, okay? Now, there were some that hadn't kicked field goals or only had one or two. No team in the country that had more, I think I have this right, more than 8 attempts that were as poor as Nebraska was kicking field goals. Now there's 7 of 12. Hello, how about that? But it's an incredible performance. And the snap was good, and he nailed them. The one from 54 would have been good from a lot. When the most embarrassing thing for Nebraska special teams, in my opinion, was when what's the guy from Colorado? I just forgot his name. The color commentator from Colorado. I just forgot his name. Anyway, when he said they need to put somebody back there in case the field goes short. It wasn't from 70. It wasn't from 61. It was from 54 yards. How could Joel Klatt think that a 54-yarder was going to be that short that they could return it? That was crazy to think about. But anyway, yeah, that's not very far.
Fun times.
Yeah, that's very strange that he was saying that. But anyway, yes, great day for the special teams unit. Other than the fumble on the initial kickoff, which wasn't great. There's always something. Let's go back to the phones. 402-951-1620. That's what Random Mike is this morning. Good morning, Random Mike. How you doing?
Hey, you're right. There's always something. We know the grade you give our offensive coordinator. What's the grade you give our defensive coordinator?
I would give the defensive line specifically a solid B+. They had an excellent disruptive game. Secondary wasn't as good, gave up a couple of busts, but I would say that defensive line and Jamari Butler specifically, wow, what a game for those guys against some really good talent on that offensive line for Ohio State.
Right. My question was defensive coordinator.
I know. I always think he does a pretty good job in scheming. I probably would say a B+ as well. I'd say a B+ overall for that defense because outside of the bus, holding them to 21 points and 1 of 10 from 3 is pretty darn good.
Hey, let me ask you this. Let's say we beat Ohio State, and I think based on what I saw, and Dylan hits 2 wide open guys for touchdowns, among other things, that we win by 10 points at least. I mean, I thought we should have, but let's say we win the game and we win out. Could we have made the playoffs?
Are you asking me at 10-2 with wins over Ohio State, USC, Iowa, and Wisconsin? Yeah, I mean, it always depends on what happens with the rest of the teams, but I think any team that finishes 10-2 in the Big Ten as we go forward is going to have a pretty good chance to be in there. Yeah, I think so.
But I think there's a good chance if we would have won out, and beat Ohio State, that we wouldn't have been able to play in the Big Ten championship.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that would have been the one thing. But I think there's going to be teams that go into the championship games, whatever conference you're talking about, that are going to lose that game, and that's going to be the reason why they're not in the playoff. That's going to happen going forward because it's happened before. We had the 12. It happened to Georgia last year. It's going to happen to other teams where they're going to go into there. They're going to lose that game. It's going to cost them getting into the final 12.
I feel so bad for the guys on defense that played trade and laid it all out there. But let me ask you this. If Nash and Robinson do not come back this year, and I thought they probably wouldn't, what do things look like for this team?
I would say that they have good. Ty is incredibly important, and Nash in different games is more important. But they do have a lot of good young athletic defensive linemen. They probably weren't ready to be able to be as successful as those two guys are. But I think the future is really bright for the defensive line. I think going forward.
Yeah,
but not this
year.
You
like their coach,
right?
You like the coach, right?
I do. I think. Pot roast. I think he does a great job getting those guys ready, fired up, and playing with good technique. And trust me, the guys behind it are more athletic than the guys they got playing right now.
Yeah. Okay. Here's the bright side.
Yeah.
and the way Dillon was running, that's huge. I think.
I agree.
I mean, don't you?
Oh,
it's just the fact that it looked like that was important. And hey, the job they did on our kicker, and I think he's been working with a former pro, hasn't he?
Yes, he's working with Brett Maher.
And we've gone from no kickers to the other guy comes back and plays like he can. We'll have 2 great kickers.
Exactly. I agree.
But this ought to give the guys confidence that please tell me we're going to win at least one more game.
They're going to be favored against UCLA at home next week for sure. So I haven't seen the number yet, but I thought it'd be somewhere around 4.5, 5. They're going to be favored. They should beat UCLA from what I've seen.
This ought to give them confidence, but I'll let you go. Love you, bro. Take care.
No, I appreciate it. No, and Coach Rule said it best in the postgame, right? He said, this is how we should play. But if we don't take it over to next week, doesn't matter. Yes, you've got to be able to play like that in consistent weeks. And that's one thing that Nebraska so far under Matt Rule hasn't been able to do. Let's take one more phone call before we take another break. KG, what's up, man? How you doing, Kevin?
I am absolutely wonderful. And yourself?
Pretty good.
Good. Hey, well, I have one thing pretty much to say. 2 things anyway. Don't let the officials beat you. Hey, they had plenty of opportunities to win the games anyway. My big question is, who is doing the spotting of the ball up in the booth? Who does that? Because before half.
Right. What do you mean in the booth? The spot comes from the line judge. The line judge does the spotting.
Yeah, but who does the spotting up in for the Huskers up in the like saying, hey, because when at the goal line it should have been like at the half-yard line, but when they spotted it was a 1.5. That's a huge different. That's a different play. So you're going to be calling instead of the guy jumping from the 2-yard line.
Sure.
Yeah, and right before the half,
right.
Where were they at with all that clock running up? You never know what might happen. Somebody's got to be out there relaying this information.
They should be. I'm not sure who gives that call. So the procedure for that normally is what happens is someone says, "Hey, 3rd and 6, this." That then goes to the offensive coordinator, who then gives the play to downstairs, who then relays it, through the headset to Dillon. That's usually the procedure in the NFL. I don't know who that person is who tells Satterfield, "Hey, here's the down and distance." I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because man, that was a rough one. But at least it's just the little things that add up to big things. So
I agree.
That's all I have to say. All right, hey Michael, you have a great day. So it's good listening to you. Take care.
I appreciate it, man. Let's listen. Out of everything that happened yesterday, and there was a lot of stuff where you thought to yourself, why is Big Ten against Nebraska? The missed spot at the end of the half. So the officials are also a team. This is a team of guys out there and gals out there who get a lot of help. That should not have been missed. Obviously, the line judge thought, so the run happens. It's a gain of probably 3. He sees a defensive lineman come through and take an offensive lineman back about 1.5 yards. And for some reason, he thought that was the ball carrier. I don't know how, but he did. And you can see him come in to spot it there. At that point, somebody else on his team, whether it's the white hat behind him or it's the new position, that guy, whoever it is, center judge, whoever it is, he's got to get help. Maybe he gets it from upstairs. They wear earpieces. Maybe he gets it from upstairs. I don't know. Some help should have been given. Now it's also on Matt Rule and his folks to see that mistake and to call a timeout and challenge it because it was that obvious. Now things are going on and you're going fast and you're trying to get points before the half. I get all that. But that's a point where that needs to get fixed. That mistake in 2024 cannot happen. Maybe that mistake happens in 1964 when games aren't televised or they're not in HD and you don't have as many people on your staff. But in 2024, that should not happen. That was a mistake by multiple people. That was an official's mistake. That was his team's mistake, the official's team. That was folks upstairs' mistake. That was a lot of mistakes. That can't happen. That burns 16 seconds off the clock when you're trying to go down and get a score before the end of the half. Hell, they made the field goal, but still, maybe they could have got a touchdown. We'll take a break. Tom, Rick, show, stay right there. Real quick break. We'll take that. We'll come back here. More Severe Reaction on 1620 The Zone.
Dillon the gun, gets the snap, back to throw. Steps away from the rush, gets to the outside, gets hit and dropped down. Knocked down by Tyleek Williams. A sack back at the 5-yard line, a loss of 8. Howard, hands extended, gets the snap, looks left, looks middle, being rushed, gets hit, goes down. Huskers get a sack off the edge. Jamari Butler with a sack back at the 36-yard line. That's a loss of 8. It sets up 3rd and 10. Big play by Butler, his 2nd sack of the year. Buckeyes go a little rhythm here on 3rd and short. Give it off to Henderson. Nope, didn't get struck. Huskers slam it down. No gain. It'll be 4th down. They try to go quick and catch Nebraska napping, but Butler and Bullock, the Bees, slam the gate. 4th down and 1.
And then really the third one, they just kind of ran a double move out and up and just caught us in the zone coverage where you need someone just to make a great play. And we just, we didn't see it. But other than those 3 plays, I think that was probably as good a defense as I've seen, for most of the day. I thought we tackled well, handled the run, won on the perimeter, we hit the quarterback. I think that, my eyes aren't very good, so it's hard. I don't know what the 3rd down numbers were, but I thought we were excellent on 3rd down, including some 1 for 10, some 3rd and 1s and 3rd and 2s, a 4th and 1 stop. So, we won the last play. We won the turnover battle with Malcolm's great pick.
Welcome back to Reaction here on 1620 The Zone. 3 plays he's talking about. 60-yard completion for the touchdown of Jeremiah Smith, 40-yard completion, touchdown catch by Carnell Tate, and then a 37-yard first down play by Carnell Tate again. That's pretty good against a team like Ohio State, and only gave up 2 runs over 10 yards for just 25 yards. That's a heck of a day. The second half for Nebraska, defensive. Overall, 11 first downs to 7, outgained Ohio State by 70 yards, held Ohio State to 0 for 6 on 3rd down, 3.7 yards per play, and had the ball 5 more minutes than Ohio State. That's a dominant second half. Didn't get them the win, but it was a dominant second half. Let's go back to the phones. That's where Show is this morning. Good morning, Show.
Good morning. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing pretty well. Yourself?
I'm doing all right.
Nice.
You know how it goes. I got a couple of things I want to touch on, okay?
All right, go ahead.
All right. One, you can tell the attention to detail was much better this week.
Yeah.
It happens, lapses from week to week, through a long season. They sleptwalked into Indiana, and so you could tell it was better this week. Offensive coordinator still on my hot seat. He's on my hot seat. I don't know about anyone else. Couple reasons. I do like screen passes. I like screens, but
yeah.
I think you have to set them up. And it feels like they're just kind of thrown in there like, hey, let's get a screen in there. And it's like, oh, there's a screen. And the defense is like really fast. Ohio State's defense is really fast. So you really got to set those up. The long run from Raiola, great run, 40, 50 yards, whatever, right?
Yep.
I thought that was right after that run, I thought that was a really good opportunity to bring in Harburg, run some read option, put it in the running back's belly. I didn't like the option play they ran later.
Although that was blocked okay, he's got to turn that up immediately. He gets 6 if he turns it up immediately. He tried to break it outside and loses yards.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's something I would have loved to see after that long run.
Yeah.
But we left Dillon in and wasted 2 plays. So with those 2 play calls, I think he was shocked that they were down in the red zone. It's like, come on, let's come with it. Let's score now. There was a dive play on goal line where 23, dives over the pile.
Yeah.
If you look to the left, it was wide open.
I know.
Why run right into the teeth of Ohio State?
He doesn't have great vision. How about if Dillon keeps it, walks in the end zone, walks in, he keeps it.
Okay, and so you know what? Later in the game, we see the shovel pass.
Yeah,
that's the type of creativity that we needed earlier. But we just went goal line dive up over the top.
They tried to run the shovel pass early in the game near midfield, and actually it was covered. And so it looked like a broken play. He tried to throw it, but that was going to be a shovel pass earlier. They came back to that play.
I like that.
Yeah.
So my last thing is Ohio State. They tend to have sleepers. I feel like there's often times where there's a game break and we see Ohio State's tied with Marshall or something random, you know?
Yeah, right.
This isn't necessarily. I mean, it's a loss. It's still a loss, and there was too many opportunities that weren't seized for me, for my liking, and OC still on my hot seat. D coordinator answered the bell. I will say O coordinator did a lot better though. Attention to detail was up. So looking forward to seeing you next week. Keep doing your thing. Love the show.
All right, Joe. Appreciate it, man. No, I'm with you. The most frustrating thing, you got 4 plays from the 7. I like the run play, giving Jalen Lloyd a chance on the sweep. And he got down on the 1 and he with a pretty good chance to score. He ran hard. But I honestly believe that the quarterback run threat is most important inside the 10, right? The deep red zone. That's the most important part. And to not have, you have Harburg on the sideline, you're first and goal from the 7, and at no point do you think to yourself, let me get him in the game to try to get the touchdown. He would have had one the week before, bad missed block by Fedoni, right? I honestly believe there's no better time, and there's nothing that a defensive coordinator is more scared of than a mobile quarterback inside the 5. Terrified of it. And even though Dylan showed some mobility yesterday, he's obviously not the runner with the physicality or the speed that Harburg has. I would have loved to see him down there. That'd have been great. Let's go back to the phones. Let's get Rick. What's up, Rick? How you doing?
Not bad, Michael. I wish you were on in the morning all the time.
But
thanks, I watched last night. I watched Penn State, Michigan, and I watched Wisconsin, and it just seemed to me that Penn State and Michigan were very successful running Wildcat inside the 10. And they're very imaginative, and I just don't understand why we can't do that. And the other thing that just drove me crazy is Ohio State was blitzing up the middle all the time. All we had to do was get a hot receiver over the middle, and it's gone for big yards, and it just drives me crazy. And then, I watch the wide receivers. They go out, and they're in the same vicinity, and Parcells used to run somebody down and then clear out his own. We don't do that. This offensive coordinator is driving me nuts.
So you're talking about, they ran a clear out earlier in the game. It's one of the best plays they ran in terms of throwing the ball. They ran a nice clear out, and Dylan didn't see the open receiver going down the middle of the field and ended up checking it down. It was a good play. It was a provident play, but he as a freshman is going to get those better. And I think that they're kind of giving him limited options at times on pass routes for him to be able to, just to make it easier on him. That's what I think.
Well, if we just had a hot receiver, he hit it for the touchdown, but I was just going like, why didn't they do that more often?
No, I'm with Rick. The thing that drives me crazy enough, they don't have enough, in my opinion, whether bunch sets, which makes it hard to be able to man up on somebody, or taking your big flankers, Nair and Banks, and putting them in motion. So that eliminates the chance of somebody being able to put them in press coverage. Those two things need to happen a lot more to be able to get the ball.
We just have to have a little more imagination. I watched those Michigan Wildcat. They were so good. I don't know why we can't do that.
Yeah.
Harburg's pretty good.
Oh, I agree. I think he's good enough to score however many touchdowns he scored last year and be one of the most explosive players in the Big Ten last year. Yeah.
Yeah. Come on.
I know.
All right, Michael. Thanks for having me on.
No problem.
Bye.
Thanks, man. I appreciate the call. Where Nebraska is offensively right now is in a way limited because you do have a true freshman. And even though he's a 5-star and he's going to be a great player, he's still a true freshman. You also have some issues on your offensive line because of injuries and some other things that you got to play around. You have a limited running game. So your limited running game hurts what you can do. And I don't believe that Satterfield is very overall down to down that good at his job. Those are your main problems. And it's not Satterfield's fault that he got hired. You know, you got to hire people that, yes, you have a relationship with, that you trust. I understand that. I worked long enough in the world to understand that. At the same time, you got to bring in people who at times you have no connection with, Tony White, who you believe can make your team better. And I'm not sure in any way they have that now with their offensive coordinator. And this is not new. I've always felt I didn't understand the hiring when it happened. As I said last week, I'm sure Marcus Satterfield is a good guy and a nice person. He just wouldn't be my offensive coordinator. Go look throughout his career. Find me the successes. Reminds me a little bit of Cosgrove, where Cosgrove had a couple of years with Wisconsin because he had Ron Dane running the ball, and you're like, oh, okay. Same thing with Satterfield. He had a couple of games, with an NFL quarterback and Spencer Rattler and some real talent at wide receiver. What's he done overall besides that? That's your issue. Tom, stay right there. When we come back, we'll take your call. We'll continue with more Severe Reaction brought to you by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally and answer the phone on the first ring. And Nebraska Medicine as well. We appreciate Nebraska Medicine for being an amazing contributor to Omaha and the surrounding area as well, and helping us out, my family specifically. We'll be back here on Severe Reaction.
Third down and 5 from the Nebraska 22. Howard, hands extended, gets the snap, back to throw, being rushed, flushed out of the pocket, rolls to the far side, hit and dropped. A sack from behind as Nebraska is able to bring him down at the 25-yard line by M.J. Sherman. The Jack gets his 3rd sack of the year.
Got away with another hold.
What else can I say? We're not out of this. We're definitely not out of this. We still fighters. We're a team that will always play our back to the wall, and we always try to fight, always try to fight, always try to fight. So I expect when Monday roll around, we have our come to truth meeting. We see the X's and O's that was wrong, that was correct. Learn from it, grow from it. On to Bloody Tuesday hitting. So I expect us in November to be the team who we are today, but even better.
I don't want anyone to take anything I say the wrong way, because everything I say is with peace and love. But when they haven't won, and then the commentary around them is always pretty like, hey, this isn't good enough. They're in a culture where all they hear is like, this isn't good enough. And so how do you get them through that? You push them through that. You push them through that. It's just what it is. Like, you push them through that. And so we always work hard. I've never had a time where I thought the guys didn't work hard.
Welcome back to the reaction here on 1620 Zone. That's a great bite from MJ Sherman. I thought it was outstanding. When you go through, I'm talking about the process to start the show, and you watch film Sunday or Monday or however it goes. They call it a come to Jesus meeting, going over what went wrong, what went right, and then you have your Bloody Tuesday or whatever else, and you work hard on Wednesday and Thursday. Tom Osborne says all the time, he will say it every time you talk to him, if he has a chance. You win the games Sunday through Friday. That's when you win the games. And on Saturday, you go out there and you just do what you learn to do during the week. And that's how you win games. And the best teams do that. They win games in what they do during the week. And earlier we had a caller that talked about more attention to detail. That happens during the week. That happens on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And we saw that this week, for sure. What you can't make up for phantom offensive pass interference calls. I've said all year, multiple times on X or wherever else to people, this was the greatest year I've ever seen for wide receivers being able to push off, and they're not calling anything. And then all of a sudden, twice in one game, Nebraska gets OPIs on plays where there's not even an extension. The second one, I could see maybe a partial extension of the right arm. But the first one, nothing. There wasn't even a push. There wasn't even a bump to get him away. And they called it. That is, I don't even understand it. Malpractice, as we said earlier. Maybe that's what you'd call it. Let's go to Tom. Good morning, Tom. How you doing? Tom? Hey, Tom. Are you there? Oh, Tom, you gone? Oh, you waited for a long time.
Call us back, Tom.
Yeah, call back. Sorry, Tom. My fault. Let's go to Shane. What's up, Shane?
Hey, good morning, Michael. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
Get in touch on something that you were actually just talking about, I think, anyway. Wanted to get your thoughts on Coach Rule's post-game presser. And before that, I say that, let me preface. So yesterday during BOR, Gary kind of said that he was kind of, I don't know if he was shocked, but he talked about how Rule decided to go, more like whole world or whatever,
big picture
during the presser. Yeah, big picture. Yeah. And I thought back to last year when we beat Illinois, and for whatever reason, that's like one of the only times I've watched an opponent coach's press conference. And Burt Bielema was so like short picture. He's like, yeah, we missed this call, we missed that, and tomorrow we're gonna do this, and we're gonna run gassers or whatever on. It was just so like even though he lost the game in a dramatic fashion, and yet he was just like so like matter of fact, like, yeah, here's what we did wrong. Here's, we're gonna do this tomorrow, and that was it. Like, what's your perspective on the way Coach Rule approaches these press conferences?
I think so. Coach Rule coaches like a father. He is always trying to make sure that when you're finished, you've grown up or you've left him, that you're better as a man and a player. So that's how his philosophy always is. It's that I'm going to teach you so you're going to be better in the end. I don't know if that's great for immediate success, but as he's proven in his past, it's really good for down the road success. That's who I think he is, whether it's in a press conference or in practice or wherever else. He's always trying to teach for the future. That's his thing. That makes sense?
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks.
No problem, Shane. Thanks, man. That's what he is. Damon always says this, and it's obvious when you listen to Coach Rule. It's more about, okay, here's how you become a good man. Here's how you become a great father. Here's how you become a great husband. In the meantime, I'm going to teach you how to block, tackle, all that stuff. But this is how you become great as a human. That's how he directs things. That's his job. That's what he does. One more call before we take a break. And in this hour, we go to Tom. Good morning, Tom.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm good, Tom. How are you feeling?
Not too bad. I guess here's a couple things, Michael. I listen to you guys, and
okay.
I think we always go that little swing pass, and we don't get but a yard or two. I think the ball needs to be quicker to them, and then on the swing pass, I don't know why they don't like fake pump it and have the guy. When the guy's coming in and he fake pumps it, and the guy take off instead. Just do something just a hair different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And run Raiola a little bit more.
No, Tom, there's so many things that can be done and maybe will be done over this next 4 games to help Nebraska win that haven't necessarily been done as the season's gone along. And I cannot answer the question about why they haven't been. I have no idea.
Well, it seems like that's our one, we throw that thing.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know what percent, but I'm like, God, if you could just fake pump it and both receivers break, you know what I mean, instead of staying there or whatever.
I call that the Clemson play because Clemson was the first one I ever saw run the smoke fake, send somebody deep. That was the first one I ever saw do it. And I'm with you. I love the play. I saw it happen twice in the NFL last week. So I've not seen that with Nebraska yet.
Yeah, I would sure like to see him. I mean, because then you're going to put a little doubt in them next time, on those, because they're on top of them like lightning. It isn't like we've done anything else there. And I just thought, if you're going to run that so much, well, then at least put some doubt in their mind. So, yeah, I thank you, Michael, for taking the show. You do a great job. It's nice listening to you again.
Thanks, Tom. I appreciate it, man. You have a great day. It's not just about the block on the edge. It's not just about the receiver catching the ball or running back. It's not just about the quarterback throwing it. That is a 3-part process that has to be done almost perfectly every time. And part of it is not always a great timing for Nebraska. There's times where Dylan Raleigh throws it too quickly. There's times where the wide receiver or running back doesn't have good spacing. There's times where the block is just missed or the block has to be held too long because the timing's not right. There's a lot of problems about that play. And it's all about repetition to get it right. We'll take a break. We'll come back here with hour number 2 on Severe Reaction.
Raiola, hands extended. Ohio State showing pressure. They're coming. Back to throw as Dillon steps through the pressure. Going to take off and run. 50, 45. He's got a first down. 40, 35. Down to the 30, 25. Dillon stiff arms a Buckeye. Out of bounds to the 15-yard line. Dillon Raiola scrambling like we've not seen him do all year. Rumbles to the Buckeye 15.
Yeah, absolutely. There were plays that I wanted back and missed, but we can't dwell on them. Just got to learn from them, and I think to go back and look and see that how we played against a team like that and a really good football team, so we can hang and we can play football.
I'm only saying this now because I want our players, if they just listen to this press conference, to know how truly, truly, truly excited I was to be in that locker room with them. I didn't have to be a cheerleader today. I didn't have to be like, come on, you can do this. Like, they were like, get out of the way. And we've had moments like that. That was 60 minutes of that today.
Welcome back to the reaction here on 1620 The Zone. I am Michael Severe. Peter Krinzer, who whenever I see Peter, all I picture is Peter as a page at the Exarban thing. And I just, I giggle a little bit. So I was watching BTN a second ago, and whenever you watch Curt Cignetti as he's in an interview on the sideline after the game, during the game, he always looks so disgusted.
Oh, I know.
That they've won. He's like disgusted.
I didn't see him crack one smile in that Nebraska game.
He cracked a smile after the Nebraska game. He made a little joke. I don't know if you've seen the joke. He's made it a couple times. He said, that's not really who I am, saying some of that stuff I said when I first started. Oh, maybe it is because I said it. And he laughed because it's a little joke that he said to himself. He looks so disgusted. They just went out. And Washington, by the way, played really well early, and I thought Washington had a chance to stay in that game, and Indiana just overwhelmed them. There's no joy in Curt Cignetti after the game or when he's being interviewed. There's just disgust. That's all it is, which is fine. I had a guy tell me the other day, this was a political thing, but he goes, I've never made any money with anybody who I thought was nice. And I thought, damn, that's kind of a negative way to think, but okay, I get it. Yeah, he just looks disgusted. It's amazing. Hey, 8-0 start. First time in the history of the program. One of their best years ever, I believe, was like 1896 for Indiana. They are now better than 1896 Indiana, which is incredible to think of. 31-17, another definitive win for IU. Good for them. And really the argument can be made. We just watched Indiana play Nebraska. We watched Ohio State play Nebraska. Who do you think looks better? Who do you think looks better coached? Ohio State or Indiana? Who do you think it looks like runs a better offense or is more aggressive on defense? And it was a good defensive day yesterday for Ohio State. 3 sacks, 13 TFLs. Wow. Interception to seal the game. Cody Simon, NFL player, 8 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 2 on back-to-back bad screen plays. He had the one to Emmett Johnson that was -3, and the other one to Emmett Johnson -1. With all that said, who looks better, Indiana or Ohio State? Just based on what we've seen so far this season. 402-951-1620 is the number. We'll go back to the phones where Brian is this morning. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning. How are you, Michael?
I'm doing pretty well. Yourself? You all right this Sunday morning?
Yeah. I feel. Yeah, I was kind of surprised. I didn't think I was going to watch the game. But, I started watching. I was like, well, it kept me in it for the whole game. So I was kind of surprised to watch the whole thing. But anyway, on Rhule's press conference, the only thing, and I maybe heard this wrong or read this wrong, maybe you can shed some light on this, is when he said something about was he referring to himself when he says you don't know what it's like to get up here every week? And I don't know how he was.
Oh, a couple of weeks ago when he said, you're talking about when he said something like it's hard to get up here and not criticize the players?
Maybe that's what he said. Maybe
yeah.
I heard that wrong.
He was saying that if you get up there and you say, that we're not functioning in a certain way, you're criticizing the players for not being good enough, and he wants to never do that.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the next point is, I just can't wait till we get Satterfraud the hell out of town. I'm tired of that guy. The screen passes are just exhausting.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Brian. I'm listen, I will tell you that, and this, let's get into confessions now, okay? This person talking to you on the radio right now, there are a few people on the planet that love the screenplay more than me. Anybody who knows me will tell you this. Anybody I've ever worked with, anybody I've ever sat next to in a press box. I love the screen. As a Saints fan, a team that ran the screen incredibly well, I understand the screen. I get it. I know the options off the screen. I know how difficult I on X I said this morning, it's like geometry. It requires your offensive line to sell that it's not a screen, that it is a traditional pass play. It requires your running back to sell he's either going to be in pass pro or do something coming off of a play action or whatever else to then sell that he's not running a screen. It requires your quarterback to have so much patience as your offensive linemen are releasing guys to go after him, and he has to make a precision throw with both patience and touch. And then when all that's done, running back's got to catch the ball. And then the offensive linemen that have released have to hit the blocks or the perimeter blocks from a tight end or a wide receiver. There's so much that goes into it. But I'm watching an Oregon highlight right now. When it's run right, it's beautiful. It's so to see 3 or 4 offensive linemen down the field and the running back has the ball in their hands and they've just turned up field. And you're like, oh, this is going. This is going. One of the greatest screens, this is how much I love screens. One of the greatest screen I've ever seen in my life was at a Scut football game. This is about, man, I think this is pre-COVID. And I'm probably 40 yards down the field and they're coming at us. And Scut had been running the same sweep the whole first half. I mean, they're pulling a guard, a tackle. They're running this sweep. And they're gashing, I think it was Elkhorn. They're gashing them. And they come back and they run a fake sweep and come back with an opposite side screen. And it looked like every offensive lineman on the team was out front. And it was beautiful to watch. It was almost like in my mind, it was like slow motion. I saved it on my phone because I thought it was so amazing. I was rolling at the time. When a screen is done right, it is a beautiful thing. And when it's not, you may as well pee down your leg. You may as well do that because that's how bad it looks when it doesn't work right.
Yeah.
And it requires talent. It requires patience. More than anything else, it requires practice. Reps, reps, reps. You don't do it right, you do it again. You don't do it right, you're not in the game. If you don't do it right, we're going to find somebody that does it right. That's the screen. And it needs to be in the game plan. It's got to be. But once Nebraska started running the ball well, and do not confuse yourself, Nebraska ran the ball, not incredibly, but ran it well enough against Ohio State to where the play action pass and downfield throws should have been available. Does Nebraska even run RPOs? I asked this to someone just now on the DM on X. Do they even run RPOs? Because I watch enough every week where it doesn't look like it. It certainly doesn't feel like it. But it is a play that needs to be a part of the system. It's got to be. Because you have to take off that pressure off. Coming into this game, Dylan Raiola on dropbacks have been pressured 33% of the time. A third of the time, Nebraska have been pressured when they drop back to pass. That's too much. It just is. Ohio State coming into the game was 9th in the Big Ten in pressure rate. They weren't great. And they had, I don't know what the ultimate number, I have to go look at PFF, but it seemed like it was a lot more pressures. I have to go back and look, but it can't be that way. 402-951-1620. We'll get to some of the questions on social media, and we'll take your phone calls going forward. 402-951-1620. No Steve Sipple this week because Steve is flying back right now. So no Steve Sipple. But we'll get back to your calls and some of the messages from social media, and I'll go over what went right and what went wrong. We'll look back at the keys to the game. I look back at my keys. I'm like, God, I actually had this game kind of nailed based off of the keys. We'll do that. And also a wild and wacky day in the Big Ten, mainly for favorites. When we come back here on Severe Reaction, brought to you by Equitable Bank. We're going to take banking personally, and Nebraska Medicine. Looking for you to work at Nebraska Medicine? You can apply, go to their website, and check it out. We'll be back here on Severe Reaction.
The tight end motions from right to left. Henderson's the back. Howard turns, fakes a handoff, back to throw, gets hit. Ball comes out. That might be a fumble. Football's loose at the 22-yard line. There's a pile up there. They've not yet made a signal. Ohio State thinks they got it back, and they might have. My goodness, are they fortunate there as the Huskers hit him, but they do recover the loose football. I think it was Donovan Jackson, their guard, that got the football back. It was Willis McGahee that knocked it free.
Well, I kind of like this here, the matchup. When Nebraska goes big on big, especially out of the one back here.
Now they motion Ibuke back to the line of scrimmage. They turn, give it off to Henderson, and he slams up that field and did not get it. The black shirts have stuffed the fourth down play.
I'm telling you, Sharp, I like the matchup.
Well, what's great is that now our whole team knows what it's supposed to look like. And so there's accountability at all ends, from seniors to freshmen, right? So those freshmen that played today know exactly what the standard is going to be going forward and how the football is supposed to be played.
I thought our defense was dominant all day. Save 3 plays, take away 3 plays. I think on the first one, we were playing a little 3 down and we took advantage of it. Tony did such a nice job. We kind of recognized pretty early we were going to be able to rush the passer, so he went back to 4 down. The second one, kind of a condensed set check, and they just, Jeremiah is a really, really good player. He ran by us, and just a nice play by them. Just they made a play, right?
Welcome back to the reaction here on 1620 The Zone, 402-951-1620. Initially, when the line opened, it opened Nebraska minus 10.5 versus UCLA. I've been kind of just checking in and watching it. Early on, it's little bits of money or groups coming in early on to move it really quickly, but it's down to 7.5 now. And based off of the power rankings that I look at, I thought it'd be 5.5, 6. I thought Nebraska would be favored by 5.5, 6.
And you were shocked at the 9.5, and then you saw it was opened at 10.5.
Yeah, it blew. I was like, wait, where's this coming from? It's simple how they do the lines. I know people think it's complicated, but it's based off of power rankings. And you look at the power rankings for Nebraska. What's the power ranking for UCLA? You subtract, and then maybe you add for home field. So even if you added, say, 2.5 for Nebraska's home field, which I don't think it's that much, it used to be a traditional 3, sometimes 3.5 for a night game, but you're talking about probably 2.5 now. So maybe that puts you closer to 5.5, 6, because the power ranking difference coming in was only about 3.5. Now, maybe it changed. Maybe when the power rankings start coming out today and tomorrow, it'll be different. But based off of what I saw, I thought the line would be 5.5, 6. Currently, it's about 7.5. Nebraska favored with UCLA coming to town. We're going to go to Matt in a second. The first stat I always look at to start the comparison and thinking of what I want to talk about for the week on the opponent is long scrimmage plays. How explosive is the team that Nebraska is getting ready to play? UCLA is the second least explosive team. Now, they played one fewer game than a lot of other teams, but they are 17th currently in the Big Ten with 78 10-plus long plays. They are one of two teams in all the Big Ten that have single-digit explosive plays, 30 or more yards. UCLA has 8, and Michigan has 9, and Michigan's played one more game than UCLA. Think about that. So, not overly explosive for UCLA. Let's go back to the phones where Matt is this morning. What's up, Matt?
Hey, Michael, love the show.
Thanks,
man. I called you last week about the field goal kicking.
Yeah.
And it was amazing yesterday, so that's great. A couple questions. Who do you think should be the starter when the first stringer comes back? The second thing I wanted to talk about was I'm a Hawkeye fan, so I looked at everything through the prism of Kirk Ferentz,
right?
Which is a terrible way to view the world. But when they were down on the 2-yard line and they didn't make it, and they were down 14-9, should they have to kick that field goal? And they would have been down 14-12, I think, in the third quarter.
Yep.
So at the end of the game, they would have been down by a point, driving down to get a field goal. And that's why I always bring up Kirk Ferentz, because that's how he beats these teams. When another team has better athletes, you just get the points, and you kind of just stay in it. And then my other question was, why at the end of the first half did they have no timeouts left? I don't think they had any.
They had one left. They had one left going into the. Yeah, they had one left.
Yeah, so I think this is more of a coaching little details than it was player little details. The players played fantastic. The defense played fantastic.
Right.
So, anyways, you were right on the whole, though, and some of the kickers, but hopefully we'll see better things in the future. So, thanks for letting me call in. And who should be the starting field goal kicker going forward?
I appreciate it, Matt.
I'll hang up and listen.
Yeah, no problem. Have a great rest of your Sunday. The field goal kicker, in my opinion, is one of the few players on the field, positions on the field, where it comes down to simply who's better in practice. That's it. There are times where you talk about guys being a gamer, right? Whether it be a wide receiver, pass rusher, whatever else. The guy's a gamer. And look great in practice, because you're not going full speed all the time. You may try to go full speed, but you're never going the speed you're going during a game in front of a full stadium. You're just not. So, but when you're kicking, you can create that to be pretty close to game situations with the rush, running them on, that kind of thing. Tristan Alvano, John Ho, whoever wins the battle in practice when Tristan's healthy again, that's who kicks for you. It's that simple. Do it in practice, win that battle, and then you kick. There's a lot of positions where you don't lose your position because of injury. You hear that a lot. But in this situation, I don't think that's field goal kicker. I think field goal kicker is you do it better than another guy in practice, and you're going to win the job. It's that simple. And I really believe that they were close based off of what they were doing in practice to be good in a game. I picked 4 field goals. I picked 37-12 this week, and I said 4 field goals. They got 3 of them. Now, going back to that question, you return the interception to the 7, and you got 1st and goal at the 7. I said earlier, I'd have loved to have seen Heinrich Harburg used in that situation. I would have liked to have seen some different play calling. But you've got 4th and goal from the 2, 1.5. Do you kick the field goal, or do you do what they did and try to score a touchdown? It's always a game situation to me. What kind of momentum does that touchdown give you compared to what maybe you say, oh, we took the loss even though we got a field goal? You got to balance that in. I thought going forward at that moment was the correct thing to do. You know Ohio State's going to score more points. They're not going to stay on 14. You knew that. You know Ohio State. You know Will Howard. You know the talent. They're not going to be at 14. So you need to get more than just that field goal to make it 14-12. I know in the end, if you add it all up and you change things around, what it means. But at that moment, I was for going for it. I thought, you don't want to be getting into the red zone over and over again and settle for field goals. I mentioned this earlier. 4 times in the red zone, 2 field goals, 1 stop on downs. You've got to be able to get, and a touchdown, of course, you've got to be able to get points there, and more than just 3 the majority of the time if you're going to win the game. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll get into some of the things that went right and went wrong. Look at our stats that we're following all season as well. Severe Reaction brought to you by Equitable Bank, where they take banking personally, and Nebraska Medicine. More on Severe Reaction on 1620 The Zone.
Three-man Husker front. Tate in motion from left to right. Play action. Back to throws. Howard steps, throws, passes, intercepted. Malcolm Hartsock with a pick at the 40, 35, weaving his way to the 30, 25,
Let's
20,
go, baby.
15, 10, down to the 5-yard line out of bounds. Malcolm Hartsock's 4th pick of the year, and the Huskers have it 1st and goal at the Buckeye 5.
Man, felt like something good was going to happen because they had been staying the course.
Dell, the deep back. They turn, give it off to Dante, leaps up over the pile, and I don't think he got in. He did not.
What I tell you, your feet are made for.
He tried to leap over the top and gets bent back at the 1.
Yeah, that's definitely a drive that we wish we could have finished off. But, I didn't know. I didn't really see the ball moved. I knew it was either going to be on the 1.5-yard line or the 1. And or if he was even on the 2, I think we had our best play called. And, we just came up a little short. And it's what it is right now. And we'll make sure that we hit those plays coming in the future.
It's hard in life, they have to find, at the end, when you look at the results, if they don't work, they don't work. But you're also saying to yourself, the best things we did today were also Dante on some big runs, and so, if you want to run the ball, you have to sometimes be willing to have a 2-yard gain, a 3-yard gain, which sets up now a ball outside, which we thought maybe Jay Lloyd would score on. And if not, we said, we'll get the ball down inside the 1 and we'll pound it. If it's 4th and 3, then we'll throw the ball in. I think the spot got us. And again, I didn't want to use a timeout there in the second half. Maybe I should have. But I knew the game would come down the end. We need the timeouts. And the other thought process being, if we run the ball, if we pound it in there, we run the ball at the 1, score. If we don't get it, we'll get the ball right back, which we did. And that's kind of the thought process down there.
Welcome back to your reaction here on 1620 The Zone, 402-951-1620. I need your help, Peter, because my old man, last video game system I played on a regular basis was Sega Genesis. What is the button that Dante Dowdell hit there to try to jump over the pile? What's the button you hit for jumping over?
I've been slacking on the new NCAA game. I need to figure out.
Well, give me
all the new controls.
Either on Xbox or PlayStation. When you're playing football, what's the button to jump? Is there a jump button?
Usually, I know when I played I'm a PlayStation guy. I know when I played games like 2K, it's usually the triangle is the jump.
The triangle's
so
the jump.
I would think maybe it would also be triangle in the football games.
Okay.
But don't quote me on that. The gamers out there,
I know.
I should know, but
I know this. 10 feet is basically what he had to jump from, because he jumped when he got the handoff. Now, they were at the 2. He really got the ball like at the 3.5. So 10 feet is a long way. It's an even longer way when you have a defense trying to stop you. That was not their best play call.
No.
Even though you can see on the play that there was a chance for him to be able to stay on his feet and get the touchdown by either going one direction or the other. That was there. So he did have the chance if he didn't jump. That was definitely not the best play call they had in their arsenal to be able to get a touchdown at that spot. But again, I was fine with going for the touchdown on 4th down. I have no problem with that. Wentwood Wright for Nebraska. Nebraska allowed 6 big plays to Ohio State yesterday. 6. That's it. Remember I said in the last segment that one of the things I look at whenever Nebraska is getting ready to play an opponent, how many explosive plays does that team have? Ohio State, through 7 games, has 110 explosive plays. If you look at 30 plus, which is really explosive plays, Ohio State was number 1 in the Big Ten. They're number 1 in the Big Ten with 21 of them. Nebraska held them to 6 big plays. Now, 3 of them were over 30 yards, but to hold them to 6, that is a great job by the defense. They had 4 through the air for 154 yards, but just the 2 for 25 yards on the ground. That is a great day for Nebraska's defense. Number 2, and this goes along with the idea of what run defense was doing. The D-line, Ty Robinson, didn't have huge numbers. He didn't. But overall, that D-line, don't look at the numbers. Now, they had 7 tackles for loss total. Nebraska did. Jamari Butler had a great game. Just look at what they did and what they forced Ohio State to do. If it was a tight set and Ohio State said, we're going to run the ball at Nebraska, you know what happened? It got stuffed. I mentioned this earlier. A third of their running plays were stuffed yesterday. That means no gain or loss of yardage. A third, 10 of their short yardage, attempted running plays, or just running plays in general were stuffed. That is incredible. Overall, Ty Robinson had a 73 tackling grade from PFF. The overall look in terms of defensive line was solid. Jamari Butler had the best pass rush grade. He had a 70 pass rush grade and 6 quarterback pressures. It was a nice overall day for the defensive line. And give some shout out to Deshaun Singleton, who had his struggles last week and other times. He played with his hair on fire. He was all over the place. Top overall grade on the defense, top overall run defense grade, top overall tackling grade, and also second best coverage grade at the linebacker spot or overall. He had a great game. Singletary was really good yesterday. Singleton, sorry. Not Singletary. And then the last one, of course, is John Hall, who had, wow, what a great day. Coming into the game, Nebraska, again, was the worst team in the Big Ten field goal kicking wise. Now, there's still a rank down there, but now it's 7 of 12. It's almost 60%. Almost, really. 58%. Not bad. Great job by him. Great job by the snap, the hold, the kicker. That battery, that team did a great job yesterday. What went wrong? That didn't happen a ton, but I mentioned it earlier. You had essentially 4 plays in the passing game where they were breakdowns, whether it was communication or scheme, 2 of which went for touchdowns. Coach Rule mentioned it there. Whatever was going on when Ohio State was running those little switch. That's why we like bunch so much, right? You get in that condensed bunch set with your wide receivers and or tight ends, and it requires communication from your defensive backs. It requires not being able to get your hands on a guy because you're in a bunch. You don't want to pick yourself. And at least twice it happened where they were in that set and they did a switch. They crossed, and whatever the communication was or whatever what was supposed to be the requirement from going from 1 to 2 to 3 didn't happen, and you had big plays. But other than that, overall, secondary wasn't horrible yesterday. They allowed Ohio State to have 11.3 yards per play on first down. They had 12 rushes for 49 yards on first down, and they were 8 of 9 for 188 yards passing on first down. It is the best. It's the best down to throw the ball. It will always be, because the majority of the time, defenses are in base on first down, and you have a chance to be able to take advantage of that. And they did. 8 of 9 for 188 yards. Ohio State only had 5.9 yards to go on third down. That's an early down success rate success. But as we mentioned earlier, somehow with all of that happening, great first down production, not more than 6 yards to go on third down, and Nebraska held them for 1 for 10. That's just incredible. And then the last thing of what went wrong, we've talked about it all day, play calling overall. Dylan Raiola, 33 passes, 21 completions. 6 of the 21 lost yardage. 6 of the 21 completions lost yardage. He had the same amount of passes that went for double-digit yardage as he did for lost yardage. That's boom or bust right there, more than any time in the season. The 4 negative yard passes 4 of them went to Emmett Johnson. And now, how much of that involved not having Ramir Johnson? Maybe. If you watch those plays, yes, it is about the way the running back gets out of the backfield and what he does, but many of those were just perfectly covered, or the timing was off coming from the quarterback. Adjusted for sacks, Dylan was 3.6 yards an attempt. 3.6 yards an attempt. Will Howard was 11.7. 3 times better. Barney had 10 targets. He was the most. 7 catches for 49 yards. Again, only 7 yards of reception for a guy with great speed who should be able to have run after the catch. Banks had 4 targets, 2 catches for 31 yards, and Nair had the 5 targets, 2 catches, had the one that was reversed that hit the ground. But the true atrocity of this whole thing is Jalen Lloyd. Jalen Lloyd is too explosive for him not to get more touches and targets. 1 target, -1 yards. Of course, he had the run down by the goal line, but 1 target for -1 yards? This is a guy that needs at least 2, in my opinion, deep shots. He's just got too much speed. By the way, he plays the ball really well in the air. That was one of the things that surprised me the most. When he got to Westside, coming from Central, where they didn't throw the ball a lot, surprised me the most was his adjustment to the ball in the air. And he's taking it to college and Nebraska as well. He needs to get more targets. By far, it's the biggest atrocity out of a bunch of atrocities for this offense is that guy doesn't touch the ball more. Got to touch the ball more. We'll take a break. We come back. Game keys, what Nebraska needed to do, how it went. We'll go over that. We'll also look more into the Big Ten because it was really a strange day. There weren't any close games besides Nebraska and Michigan State. There just weren't close games. We'll get into those as well and look ahead to UCLA, a game where Nebraska currently is favored by, how much has it changed? Still 7.5 in the first day after losing 21-17 to Ohio State. We're back here on Severe Reaction on 1620 Zone.
Five on the play clock. Raiola in the gun. Claps the hands. Here comes the blitz. Back to throw. Steps, throws, pass, caught. It's going to be a Husker touchdown for the lead. Isaiah Nair with a quick slant. Makes the grab of the 5. Finds Pater. 15-14 NU.
After further review, the runner's shin was down. And the ball was at the quarter-yard line.
Review, everyone.
That
It's first and goal
down.
from the 1-inch line.
First down and goal, Nebraska.
Dell's the back. Huskers break the huddle. Under center goes Raiola. Huskers go quick. Turn. Give it off to Dante right side. Leans. Dives. Touchdown, Nebraska. Dante Dowdell puts the big red in front. 15-14. Empty set. Back they go. Fake the handoff. Shovel pass. In there. Korkachur makes the catch on the shovel pass. Nebraska gets 2 more. It's a 17-14 Husker lead.
It's the first time since I've been here that I felt a championship mindset in the locker room. Along with the championship mindset, as those who compete know, comes utter disappointment when you lose. So that part's hard. It's hard for the guys. But I saw a group of guys, even at the very end, take the field, going out there to make one more play, have a chance to compete against one of the best teams in the country. So I thought they grew up. I challenged them. It better look this way next week. Some of the football still's tough. It's hard. You're literally, you got some of our administrators that hear me on the field. I'm still, you got some young guys out there still coaching things out there in the middle of the game that a year or two, you hope that it's second nature. It's just what it is.
Welcome back to Severe Reaction. One of the things I love about Matt Rule is Matt Rule will drop hints. He will tell you exactly something that happened to him that week or that day. Somebody must have complained about him yelling on the sideline over the course of this season. Somebody must have. Could you hear him? About the administrator thing?
Yeah.
He'll tell you what's going on. Somebody got mad. Somebody's like, I don't like the way he's acting on that sideline. Maybe we need to tell him something. That's just
Ryan Day might get that talk now.
Right. Dude, but he's been that way he's been that way since he was an offensive coordinator. Yeah. He will lose it. Just absolutely lose it. And he could have easily gotten an unsportsmanlike conduct for the way he acted after that. He bumped the referee.
I was shocked that he didn't.
Yeah, and he threw his headset, kind of. It happened to be attached. And he bumped the referee. Should have been something. But no, but just a warning. Let's go back to the phones, 402-951-1620. That's where Dominic is this morning. What's up, Dominic?
Hey, you just stole my thunder because that was one of the first things I was going to ask you about. I just saw it was like on Michigan Diehards, their Facebook page showed a different angle of the day tantrum.
Yeah.
And the flag came out from the official right after he got bumped.
Right.
So to me, the official threw the flag because of the context with the official. It had nothing to do with being a sideline warning. So anyway, that was my officiating question. But I have two other things. I love Coach Rule. I just, I can sometimes hear in his voice the frustration, but I just love the guy. And maybe there are some things he needs to do, things he needs to change. But one positive, one negative. What is I don't understand the whole screen game thing because it seems like even yesterday when we're playing great athletes, that play just blown up, and it's been blown up all year long. Is it because the receivers are not blocking properly, or what is it? And then the other observation I had is I noticed, to me yesterday, Dylan got out of the pocket and used his legs a whole lot more yesterday.
Yep.
And I thought that was good. You don't want to see him get hurt, obviously, but he made some plays with his legs that I don't think he'd made, throughout the season. I just kind of, I'm no expert, but I wish they cut him loose a little bit more. But anyway, I just curious as to your thoughts. But yeah, my first thought was the whole day thing. I saw it from a different angle behind the bench, and he was totally bonkers.
Thanks, Dominic.
Thanks, guys.
All right, I'll go backwards on it. So there's two different types of sideline warnings you can get. One is a sideline warning where, yes, you're on the sideline, the play is going on, it's in progress. Say the referee's running down the sideline, you're in the white, you're in the way, you contact the official, automatic 15-yard penalty there. Then there's a sideline warning where guys leave the bench to celebrate or to complain, and they'll give you one, and then the second time it happens, they give you the penalty. Now, obviously, it wasn't during the play that he bumped the referee, but you're also not allowed to contact the referee in a situation like that because that's unsportsmanlike conduct. And that's what the call should have been, in my opinion. They should have called him for unsportsmanlike conduct. There should have been a second 15-yard penalty, and Nebraska should have, instead of being at their own 46, they should have been at the 41 of Ohio State. That's what they should have been. But that's what they decided to do. Screen-wise, I'm going to separate the screens. I'm going to go with the screen that you run to a running back traditionally, opposed to what I like to call smoke, or whatever different teams, or depending if it's a West Coast offense or what, run to the outside and the wide receiver. The interior screens that are going to running back specifically, I mentioned earlier, the geometry of it, everything that has to go right. For the ones that are away from the line of scrimmage, you need to be able to have the right distance, so the separation between where you're catching it and where the blocker is. You've got to be able to get the ball to the receiver on the right side, meaning getting him going upfield opposed to having to reach back for the ball. You have to have a great block and one that doesn't have to last very long. So the timing of it, that's what I think more than anything else has been off on these smoke or outside screens is I think the timing is bad. And as someone on DM, the X's and O on Twitter said, the options to this where, you make it more of an RPO where you got to scare them. You got to get the other wide receiver who maybe is blocking to just flash block and then go downfield. So when you pump that throw and that defender steps up, we saw it. We just saw it against Indiana for the touchdown. And you get the person behind them, and there's your catch. So your blocker is just faux blocking, and he is getting downfield. And so when they think it's going, because so many times it does, outside to the wide receiver, instead you're throwing it either down the field on the sideline or coming back across the middle. You got to give them those more options. That way, it's a better chance to work because you can confuse the defense. So, yeah, a lot going on with there. I want to go game keys real quick before we take a break, our last break. Are you familiar, Peter, with the band Wilson Phillips?
I've heard of him.
Okay. Biggest hit, I think, for them is a song called Hold On. That was my number one key yesterday. Nebraska had to hold on through the first quarter, through halftime, make it a 4-quarter game. And by the way, they did. They made it a 4-quarter game. The line from the song was, why do you lock yourself up in these chains? No one can change your life except for you. Don't ever let anyone step all over you. Hold on. And that's what Nebraska did. They didn't let Big Ten power Ohio State step on them. They held on, and they gave everything they had. Number 2 key was Rocky Balboa. Simply throw some haymakers, some devastating bombs. And I don't mean necessarily down the field, just haymakers. Make them think. Nebraska did have 8 explosive plays for 171 yards. And Dillon did something he hadn't really done all season and used his legs. So they did have some extra stuff. Not enough. I would have loved to see a little bit more happening. But again, they did some more things. And the third one was simply stop the run, make Will Howard beat you, and have bad blood against Ohio State. And you saw the physicality, the Taylor Swift song. You got to have bad blood. And they had that. 10 of Ohio State's runs were stuffed. No gain or tackle for loss. 0 for power runs. And sack adjusted 2.6 yards a carry. Nebraska stopped the run, and they made Will Howard beat them. Now, he beat them. He did. But they did what they needed to do in terms of what I thought was one of the biggest keys, stopping the run and making the quarterback beat them. Joe, stay right there. We'll take one last break, quick break. We'll be back. We'll get into some stats as well, and also look ahead to the game next week against UCLA when we come back here on Severe Reaction.
Howard motions a man out. 6 on the play clock. Snap back. Howard looking left. Holding, throwing to the far pylon. Pass caught, touchdown Buckeyes. They're back in front.
That's a hold, too. That's okay. Okay.
Judkins shook the coverage and was backpedaling into the end zone when Howard found him. It's now a 2017 Ohio State lead.
The bottle's being thrown is just, I don't know. I kind of feel like it disrespects football and kind of the nature of it. But it happened, and we had to get away from it. But no, it was loud. It was a cool environment. But we knew that coming in, and it's definitely a learning point. But we'll be excited to go watch the tape and get better.
For those of us who believe in the long way, the hard way, for those of us who haven't had things handed to us, for those of us who believe in building, for those people who believe in putting in an honest day's work, like I hope while they're disappointed, they're proud of what they saw, of what they competed. And while I yelled at the officials sometimes and all that, our players didn't let it bother them. Our players just continued to compete. Thought we played with class and dignity. We had a chance to win. So I know that's long. I know it's hard. I don't say that to justify what we're doing. I'm saying that so our players will understand why I'm so proud. Not satisfied. That's very, very, very important. There are no moral victories, but proud.
Welcome back to Fear Reaction. Last segment, 2 things. I'm so proud. That goes back to that. And every time someone says that, they were kind of put on third base or got things they didn't earn or whatever, Ryan Day always pops up in my brain because Harbaugh used to always drop that about how Ryan Day didn't really earn anything. He was some offensive coordinator. They just gave him this amazing program. Let's go back to the phones where Joe is. Hey, Joe, how you doing, man?
I am good. How are you?
I'm great.
Wilson Phillips, what's next? Rick Astley reference, never going to give you up?
Hey, man, I've used it before. I always have music keys.
I love it. I'm at that age, though. That's my kind of jam.
Nice.
Sometimes in life, I think we get, and this is just my opinion, right? It's just that. But sometimes in life, we get it in our head that things a certain way, like Foley. There for a little bit, I was like, man, do we need to get rid of this guy? But then there was glimpses yesterday of some improvement. So it's like, can I see things objectively? And I don't know if Husker fans are doing that with Sat. They sort of have got it in their head that he sucks. And play calling is one of these deals. You're damned if you do and damned if you don't. Like, if you play prevent defense and something happens, it's like, well, why didn't you blitz? And if you blitz on a Hail Mary, what are you doing blitzing? So you look like a genius when you do it, and you look like an idiot when it fails. But I think, sometimes I fail to be objective when I sort of already have it in my head that a guy is, if I think Satterfield's an idiot, I'm going to be, everything that happens, I'm going to be, oh, great, there you go again, Satterfield. But that's my take. I personally think, at times he isn't very creative, and, he could be more creative with his game planning and game calling. But there's all, the defenses that are coming at us in certain ways that a lot of us don't realize. We don't even put that into thought. And, I don't think he's calling these screen passes, to say, well, we're doing good moving the ball. Let's call something that's going to give us negative plays, right? The defense is doing something that he's like, well, if they do this, let's do that. But that's what I got.
I appreciate it, Joe. No, nobody ever draws up a play in practice or in pregame and says it's only going to go this far. It's everybody draws up to say, hey, maybe let's take a touchdown. I get it. And I think, do I think he's doing his best? I don't think he's not. I don't think he's purposefully sabotaging the program. I don't think so. But there's issues on the offense and the play calling. Yesterday in the Big Ten, only 2 games decided by under double digits. Nebraska, Ohio State, Michigan, Michigan State. Strange, a lot of favorites taking care of business. That's what we've gotten now. We should kind of see the separation happening in the Big Ten. Nebraska's got to be a part of that separation. They get UCLA next week, 2:30. We'll, of course, be back here Sunday morning at 8 o'clock. You compare the 2 teams. UCLA's offense has not been successful all year. You look at Nebraska's defensive stats. This should be a game where Nebraska can dominate this offense. Gerber's at quarterback hasn't been great. They haven't run the ball well. Nebraska should be able to dominate this game. They are a 7.5-point favorite. 2:30 next week. We'll be back here Sunday morning, of course, at 8 a.m. on Severe Reaction.